Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Jewish Book Village webinar. My name is Yehudit Freud. I am the founder and creator of the JewishBookVillage.com. We are a digital platform that helps Jewish authors connect with a huge network around the world of readers, reviewers, media outlets, community leaders, librarians, bookstore owners, and others in the publishing industry. We're very happy that you're joining us today. We are going to be talking about how to choose the right path for your book. This can be a pretty complex issue, especially because luckily today there are a bunch of different options that exist for authors. And so we're going to discuss what the options are for any author whose book relates to Jewish life or Israel. And I will explain the advantages and disadvantages of each option. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you will have a more clear idea as to what is right for you and your book. So I am going to just preface this by saying that luckily there are a lot of viable options out there, and what's right for you doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for somebody else. And so you really need to be clear about which path aligns with your goals, with your timeline, with your personality, and of course with your resources. So if you're writing a book, if you're thinking about writing a book, if you have a finished manuscript or you're looking for a publisher, this talk is for you. So because there's so many factors that go into this decision, it's really important to be clear about what these factors are and where you are in this process. And of course, it could be really overwhelming. It could be confusing, and you might not know what exists in the publishing world today. There's also sometimes there's pressure. Authors feel pressure in terms of choosing, what's considered a prestigious publishing company. But know that, basically a lot of the stigmas that once existed for, let's say, self-published books, they don't exist today. But it means that you're going to have to work really hard to get your book out there. So because the publishing industry has changed so much over the past few years, there's actually not any one universally better choice. The only right choice is the one that's right for you. So let's go into the big picture here, okay? There are a few very different models, and we're going to clarify what these paths actually are. The first is traditional publishing. So in the mainstream world, in order to get into a traditional publishing company, you sign with an agent, you find an agent who is aligned with the tone and the scope of your book, somebody who you click with and who believes in your book, who will bring your manuscript to a publisher and basically pitch your manuscript to them. And then the publisher obviously takes care of the production, the editing, the marketing, and distribution of your book. The good news is that in the Jewish book world, don't really need an agent. This is why I said that there are 3 or 4 different publishing models. In the Jewish publishing world, you could more or less go to each one directly. I recommend that you take some time and look at the websites of these different publishing companies that exist for the Jewish community, because each one is nuanced. Some of them only deal with children's books. Some of them only deal with, let's say, they're more geared towards the Orthodox world. And even within the Orthodox world, it's pretty nuanced. And so take a look at the website, look at the tone of the words that they're using, look at the recent publications that have come out under their company, try to get a sense of the markets that they're trying to reach and aspire to reach, look at where they advertise. Now, how this works with a traditional company is that sometimes you might get an advanced payment called an advance. You get professional production, professional editing. You work with their professional team, designers, typesetters. Hopefully, they have good distribution in the types of bookstores that will be interested in marketing your books. But the downside of working with some of these more traditional publishing companies is that you are beholden to their decisions, their timeline, and they're usually juggling many, many different books. So you're looking at a timeline of anywhere between, let's say, 1 to 3 years after your book is actually accepted by these publishing companies. And that relates to the mainstream world and also to the Jewish publishing world. So that's an important question that you should ask, the publisher when you're in talks with them is, what does the timeline look like for the rollout of your book? Obviously, there's lower royalties that they offer. You have less creative control as well because, you are working alongside with their editors and with their graphic designers. And so you might be involved in the marketing with the publicists and the publicity team, but they usually offer a pretty well-defined package for marketing and publicity. And it sometimes means that you need to supplement the marketing and the publicity with a private publicist. So there are definitely pluses and minuses to going along with a traditional publisher. The next model is called hybrid publishing. And this is, I guess you could say that it's a fairly new model, but a lot of the publishing companies out there, including the Jewish publishers, are actually working on this type of model. And essentially what it means is that the author pays towards the production of the book. So there's a certain fee, and that it includes A, B, C, D, E. It includes editing, it includes production of the book, the cover design, the typesetting, distribution. Now, if you decide to go along with this hybrid model, so paying into this could mean that you're getting contributions or donations from other people. Sometimes there are authors who work with a nonprofit organization who sponsors the book. And so, you have maybe some people who want to sponsor the book. A lot of times you'll see that it's in memory of a loved one, or nishmat, So you'll see that in a lot of Jewish books that come out. Sometimes you can get a grant or a fellowship that will contribute towards the production of your book. Sometimes there are university presses that might be willing to co-sponsor. So there are different models of the financial contributions that you can take on in order to actually make this happen for yourself. Now, there are a few questions that I would recommend asking your hybrid publisher, and these are based on issues that I've seen with clients that have come to me. So one of the questions that should come up, that you should bring up to them, is, what does their marketing look like? What does their publicity look like? And you want to make sure that they are marketing and publicizing to the audience that fits your book and the scope of your book. In other words, let's say you're writing a memoir that relates to growing up in Israel, or you're writing a biography about one of your grandparents who survived the Holocaust. So obviously that relates to a specific market, and it also could obviously relate to a larger market out there. But you want to make sure that they are then notifying publications and media outlets that have an interest in growing up in Israel, or Holocaust education, Holocaust memory. Now, you should have a conversation with the marketing team and find out what's involved with that. The same issue exists with the editing. And I say that because sometimes there are manuscripts that have, Hebrew or Yiddish terms or names of towns in Eastern Europe. And so you want to make sure that the editing team is aware of those terms and that they're editing it properly, so that they're using the right spelling and that they're italicizing the right words. And again, this is based on my own professional experience. Okay, so when you're going in with a hybrid publisher, you want to make sure that their marketing, that their editing, that their distribution across the line, across the spectrum from A to Z, that they are able to treat your book as the individual entity that it is, as the baby that it is, and that they're going to reach the readers that are going to be interested in buying your book. You want to make sure that they understand the scope of your book, the tone of it. And so that means really asking them very pointed questions. Do they work with Jewish bookstores? Do they work with libraries? Do they work with university libraries? Do they work with, any of the Jewish media outlets that might be interested in your book? If the answer is no, then you might have to supplement with either an editor who can look over and proofread the work, or with a publicist who specializes in the Jewish world. So you want to make sure that all of this is covered. And when it comes to the royalties, that also is a question that you'll have to ask the hybrid publisher, because you are contributing financially to this work. So what is their policy when it comes to royalty payments? Does that mean that you get higher royalties, lower royalties? Those are things that you need to find out. The next option is self-publishing. So self-publishing, as you all know, 10 to 15 years ago, there was a certain stigma that came along with self-publishing. Nowadays, that is not the case. There are high quality, beautiful books that are being self-published. And there are definitely advantages to self-publishing, and there are also some challenges. So let's go through them. The first, obviously, is that you're not getting an advance if you choose to self-publish. You, as the author, are funding and directing everything. You're funding the editing, the typesetting, the proofreading, the copy editing, the cover design, the marketing, the publicity, and anything else that comes along with the production and the marketing of the book. It's all falling on your shoulders. So there is something very beautiful and powerful about that because it means that you are in the driver's seat. You have full control over every single aspect of this book. You're choosing who you work with. On the other hand, it means that you're in full control. So if you are not the type who's going to be organized and push the project ahead, then self-publishing might not be for you. Obviously, there's greater financial risk, but there's also greater upside potential. So what this looks like is essentially building your own team. You need to find the right editor who understands, the tone and the scope of your book. Find the right typesetter, find the right designers and the right marketing team. And it's also worthwhile to use, if you're not so tech savvy, you might want to take on some kind of publishing service that will upload it to either Amazon KDP or Ingram Spark. Those are two of the most powerful online options for self-published books. And you can certainly take care of this yourself. But again, if you're not tech savvy, or if you don't really, have the patience to do all the research, there are a lot of different companies out there that are offering this service for self-published authors. And if you need references, then you are definitely more than welcome to get in touch with us. Now, the main thing, and this is across the board, but the main issue is really knowing that publishing the book is about the production and having a physical book. But sales come from visibility. And this is where we come in because we work closely with our clients to drive visibility of the book. That means getting on social media, using digital marketing, getting book reviews, getting interviews in the media. So you need to really be willing to get behind your book, be clear about what your strategy is. And I recommend, working, I would say 3 to 4 months prior to the publication of your book in order to get clear about what your strategy is. And if you're looking to get reviews, particularly in the trade publications and in some major media outlets, then this means that you need to be working on the publicity and the marketing of your book 5 to 6 months prior to the publication of your work. If you're interested in getting more details about that, again, you're welcome to get in touch with us. So there are essentially 3 different options out there. Like I said, there's the traditional publisher, there's hybrid publishing, and there's self-publishing. Regardless of the avenue that you take, you need to get behind your book because there's no stronger advocate for your work than you. So that means lining up interviews, lining up your reviewers, coming up with a really strong reviewer, pre-launch campaign. And so now we're going to go into how you figure out which avenue is right for you. So self-publishing, it usually fits people who are entrepreneurial, independent, comfortable making decisions, clear about what the process is, and you are willing and able to invest the time, the effort, and the budget up front in order to get this going. Traditional publishing and or hybrid publishing, it suits people who kind of want to work with a professional team. If you are looking for that professional team to give you structured guidance, then the traditional and hybrid options are more for you. You need to be really patient, but you don't have to be afraid to check in with them and to advocate for yourself because the more that these people have, the more that your team has a relationship with you, the more they're going to be pushing your book. You don't want to manage production there. In fact, you're not going to be able to manage production. And so anyone who wants to have a real professional team that's working on their book, that it's, it's in place and it's in the pipeline, then traditional is the way to go. And I think you need to be really honest about, where you are, what your personality type is like, how much control you want to have over the process, and how much involvement you want to have in this process. And so if you are looking to, if you need more advice about what kind of path to take and what's right for you, then please get in touch with us. We would be more than happy to give you, a consultation call. And for anybody who's interested, we also have a workbook that will help you figure out which is right for you. So you could comment below or send us an email at jewishbookvillage.com, and we would be happy to send you that guidebook. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, be in touch. Have a wonderful day.